Shabbat, don't you cry, go to sleep, little baby.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rick DeShazo. Thanks for joining me tonight for this second installment of Premature Parenthood, our special series looking into Mississippi's teenage pregnancy crisis. I'm here again at the Neonatal Intensive Care Unit at the University of Mississippi Medical Center. This is the only one like it in the state. Premature babies from all over the state are flown here because this is the only place in the state capable of caring for the smallest and the sickest. Often the smallest and the sickest are children of teen mothers. That's a fact that's indisputable. And tonight we hope to give you a number of facts that will help you understand teen pregnancy in our state. We're also looking at myths surrounding teen pregnancy. For so long, many of us have believed certain things about the girls having these babies. What's true and what is false? Hopefully, we'll find the answers. At the very least, we'll give you real information. We might as well start this one off with some good news. Teen pregnancies down in Mississippi. According to the Centers for Disease Control, Mississippi saw teen pregnancy rates decline more than 20% between 2007 and 2010. That is incredible news. But now for the bad news. We still have the highest teen pregnancy rate in the country. In Mississippi, there are 55 babies born per 1,000 teenage girls. That equals out to 1 out of every 6 babies born in the state being born to a teen mom. This just doesn't make sense to the most powerful dad in the state of Mississippi.
It is not good for a 15-year-old girl to have a baby.
Now, this may not seem like such a strange thing to hear coming out of Governor Bryant's mouth, but when you look at it politically, it's somewhat of a stretch. In the conservative South, staunchly Republican governors don't usually take on social issues like teen pregnancy. But Governor Bryant has a unique way of looking at the problem.
When I was in law enforcement, we would look at accidents, and there was this thing called accident scene reconstruction. And you would begin with that accident, and you would say, if this one element had been removed, the entire accident would not have occurred. And so I began to use that law enforcement concept to look at some of the challenges that we have in Mississippi. And so much of it began with that teen pregnancy.
A pretty interesting way of looking at it, but one that can't be solved in ways that he's become accustomed to.
The legislature can't write laws that can cure it.
So right out of the gate, on the day of his inauguration, Governor Bryant laid out his plan. He wants to change Mississippi's teen pregnancy future. First things first, he has some goals.
So our deliverable, we say, is going to be a 15% reduction in teen pregnancy in the state of Mississippi by 2017.
To meet this goal, Governor Bryant has created a teen pregnancy task force whose work is to come up with ways to solve the problem. The group meets regularly to work and plan and then reports back to the governor. And part of that work includes a second goal.
We say we're going to reduce the number that the second burst, the second time, and this is something that was new to me too, is a teen mother that has multiple children. And so physicians have told me about patients that they have between 15 and 19 years old that have 2 or 3 children. And so we say we're going to try to reduce that dramatically by that same time period.
Another huge issue for Governor Bryant is the men in these equations. In 2010, on the birth certificates of babies born to girls aged 12 to 16, 76% of the fathers were listed as unknown. Why? Well, we can't say for sure in every case, but law enforcement often believes This is because the fathers are far older than the teen mothers and would be considered sexual predators by law. Although that's not always an easy distinction to make.
We've got to target the male, primarily the adult male. In too many of these cases, we've got adult males who are impregnating teenage girls. That's a crime. We should be enforcing that crime. I have talked to the Attorney General. We're going to work carefully with district attorneys throughout the state to see if we can't enhance penalties and if we can't clarify the law.
And why does the law need clarifying?
You almost have to have a slide rule to figure out when someone's raped a child. We can do better than that. And so that's one of the things that the legislature can do is say, we're going to make sure that that sexual predator is classified just as that, that we have to make sure that they're listed as someone who has been a sexual predator under the current state laws, and we need to make sure that they're held accountable.
Despite his passion for solving this issue by going after sexual predators, Governor Bryant is, at heart, a family man, and he strongly believes that many of the messages key to preventing teen pregnancy must come from the moral center, the home and the church.
I don't want to get to the point where we say it doesn't do any good to tell children not to have sex. I just think that's wrong. I think we've got to have our responsibility as parents to say, you're a child. I don't want you drinking when you're driving. I don't want you staying out at 2 o'clock in the morning on a school night. I don't want you having sex. And I don't think it's anything wrong for fathers to sit down with their young son and say, and I don't want you fathering a child. And if you do, there's going to be some bad consequences for it. And I'm going to hold you accountable for it. Fathers need to start having that conversation.
From Governor Bryant to another of Mississippi's influential leaders, Dr. Mary Currier. When she talks of teen moms, instead of looking at the legal side of things, she sees the public health perspective.
Well, the problems with teen pregnancy are that it's bad for the mom and bad for the baby. The outcomes are worse when you have children and you're a teenager, you're a child yourself having children. The kids are more likely to end up on public assistance, more likely to end up in jail, and they themselves are less likely to graduate from high school. The moms are less likely to graduate from high school, less likely to have a job that can support them. So not only is it an issue of good health outcomes for the mom and the baby, but it's an issue of good economic outcomes for the family and for the state.
This sentiment was echoed almost exactly by Jamie Bardwell, the program director for the Women's Fund of Mississippi. This nonprofit group is making it their mission to find a way to stop teenage pregnancy in Mississippi.
We know that children of teen mothers are more likely to end up in prison. We know that children of teen mothers are more likely to also become teen moms themselves. And we know that the educational outcomes for teen moms and their children are not very good at all. We know that only 30% of teen moms actually graduate from high school, and that the number one reason for dropout is for teen girls is teen pregnancy. So clearly it's an economic issue, it's a health issue, and it's an issue that really affects the workforce development. You know, what businesses are going to come to Mississippi and set up shop if they can't find a well-educated, healthy workforce?
And that's if the pregnancy goes well to begin with, which all too often is not the case.
Children that are born to teen moms are more likely to be born too early. About 15 to 16% of our births in the state are to teen moms, but they account for more than 20% of our infant mortality. So there's a higher rate of infant mortality among those infants born to teen moms.
Then there's the issue of race. Long a touchy issue in Mississippi, we wanted to know what the experts think. What about the race myth? Is this a black issue? Because that's what people seem to think. The numbers are very clear. No way to argue with them. In 2010, there were 6,185 babies born to teen moms. 2,579 of these were born to white moms, and 3,606 were born to non-whites, mostly black, but with a few Hispanic moms as well. When broken down into percentages, that means that 41% of the teen moms in 2010 were white, and 59% of the teen mothers were not. Clearly not as, pardon the pun, black or white, as one might have previously thought. So we asked both Dr. Currier and the experts at the Women's Fund what they thought about the controversy. Is this a black problem or a white problem or a Hispanic? What?
You know, we have high rates of teen pregnancy across the board in the state. There is more teen pregnancy among African Americans, but we're still high across all racial groups.
Carol Pinnock, Executive Director of the Women's Fund of Mississippi, put it even more clearly.
This is not a black or a white issue. This is a black and a white issue. We broke down our statistics by county, and some counties it's equal, black and white teen births. Some there are more black children born, some there are more white children born, but the important thing here is this is not somebody else's problem. This is everybody's problem.
So there is that myth completely blown out of the water. Mississippi's teen pregnancy crisis is not a bunch of African American girls having babies right and left. One myth down, plenty more to go. How about Medicaid and the many myths surrounding it and teen pregnancy? Many people believe that a lot of girls get pregnant over and over merely to make money off the system. Is that so? Well, we went straight to the horse's mouth. Dr. David Dzielak, the Executive Director of the Mississippi Division of Medicaid. He filled us in on what Medicaid is, what it's designed to do, and who it serves.
Medicaid is designed to take care of the most vulnerable people that we have in the state. 56% of our enrollees, and we have 640+ thousand enrollees, 56% of those are children, and 24% are the elderly and disabled, the supplemental security income people. So if you put those two together, that's 80% of the people that we serve are the most vulnerable people that we have in the state.
So what about the teen moms? How do they fit in?
If you're a teenager and you're pregnant, you're eligible for Medicaid without a means test. So that means you don't have to meet the federal poverty level measures, you're just eligible.
Okay, now what about the cost? Surely these teens are costing taxpayers of Mississippi a fortune, right? Well, not exactly. Mississippi has a pretty sweet deal when it comes to Medicaid, the best in the nation, actually. Because of the federal match, for every 25 cents that Mississippi taxpayers put in the pot, the federal government pays 75 cents. So keep that in mind.
Now, not every pregnant teenager comes and enrolls in Medicaid, but last year we covered about 1,100 pregnant teenagers. And for each pregnancy, normal pregnancy, it costs about $4,300 for the Medicaid program. Now you got to remember the federal match rate there, so it's really only 1/3 of that cost is actually the cost to Mississippi itself. But if you have a low birth weight baby, which teen moms are very susceptible to having, that changes the game completely. The average cost for a low birth weight baby is much higher than the cost for a normal pregnancy, because you have to then spend time in the NICU. There's a lot more medical need depending on how low of a birth weight baby you actually have. So the average low birth weight baby costs Medicaid about $63,000.
As we learned on our last program, when you have one low birth weight baby, odds are you'll have another. But why are teens more likely to have them? And is it all teen mothers?
Teenage mothers do have a higher risk of having a low birth weight baby. Teenage mothers who are also in low income situations have an even greater chance of having a low birth weight baby. So the risk for, and there are several factors that go into that, prenatal care, may not be as good as it would be in a higher income bracket. So there is a significant risk for the Medicaid population to have low birth weight babies.
But just for a little perspective, these numbers should help. For the 6-month period from October 2011 through March of 2012, Medicaid paid for 890 teen births. The total bill over those 6 months came to a whopping $3.27 million. So we know that Medicaid will pay for delivering the babies, but what else?
We also cover family planning services for those individuals who are eligible that meet the means test. Now, family planning has a much better match rate than the state match rate for other medical services. It's a 90% match rate. So for every 10 cents we put in as a state, we get 90 cents from the federal government to support those services. Last year, we spent about $20 million on family planning services. So if you do the math correctly, that's about $2 million in state money for family planning.
So between the deliveries and the family planning alone, that's a lot of cash out of Mississippi pockets, albeit thanks to the federal match, it could have been much, much more. What are we leaving out?
Medicaid will pay for doctor's visits during the pregnancy. They will pay for the mother's medical expenses related to the pregnancy for 2 months after birth. And they will pay for the child expenses for up to 1 year. So until the child is 1 year old.
But wait, this is what everyone says is why so many girls get pregnant. There's money in this, right? Are there direct cash payments to mothers who have these babies out of wedlock?
Not from Medicaid. There are no direct cash payments. The only thing Medicaid is allowed to pay for are medical services or those services that are surrounding medical services. So transportation to the doctor would be one, but there are no direct payments to the enrollees.
So there's another myth cleared up, right? Teens can't make money off a baby. Well, not so fast. We couldn't get anyone to really agree on this one way or the other. Take a look at some of these sound bites from interviews of other people you'll see from other shows this week. Are you aware of the benefits, the economic benefits to teenage mothers to get pregnant and to stay pregnant, and the Medicaid incentives in that regard? Because you haven't mentioned anything about the incentives that financial incentives women have to get pregnant and stay pregnant if they're in poverty.
We don't think that's true.
We've never met a single young woman or older woman who has decided to get pregnant because she wants an extra $50. You know, the cap on money you can get from, say, welfare is less than $150 a month, and it's time limited to, I believe, 15 months. So you can't become wealthy off of public benefits. And we have never encountered a single person who has said, I wanted to have a baby to make money, because you don't make money, you lose money.
Here you are, you're a teenager, and you have a baby, and what do? You have no way to take care of them, and then there are programs that you can apply for and get help with raising your child, and who wouldn't do that? They're available, right? And some of them do get caught into that system of welfare.
We've got maybe about 5 who wanted to go back to school, but they kept coming up with excuses not to go to school. These are the ones who are caught up in the system. You know, I want a job, I want money, I want an apartment, but because you're in the system, you got an apartment that you pay $1 or $5 or $10 a month. You want a job, but you've got this little money coming in, so you're not trying really to find a job. I've gone out and I found jobs for several women, and they didn't take them. You know, and I don't understand that when you need a job, you say you want a job, and then later, you know, when we talk, their greatest need is a job. I need a job. You know, so some are motivated more so than others.
So is there an answer? Well, we didn't find one. Based on what we found financially, we find it very hard to believe that anyone can survive on what Medicaid and other public assistance programs provide to teen moms. So what's the key here, and how do we keep these girls from getting pregnant in the first place? Well, everyone from the top down seems to agree that education is the answer. But in Mississippi, that's easier said than done. Many state laws make it hard for educators and school nurses to discuss specifics with students. And one of the most frustrated people we talked to during this entire process was a school nurse who also works at a public health clinic. By working on both sides of the medical world, she sees what good and bad can be done when teens get only one part of the message.
In the school setting here in Mississippi, as you know, the law forbids us to do much more education than basic anatomy, which they're not getting as it is, obviously. We cannot do birth control, talk about birth control options. We can talk about STDs, but not how to prevent them. It's an abstinence-only world in Mississippi, and I think that really hampers us at this point.
We aren't able to show you this school nurse's identity because she is afraid of the repercussions of speaking out. She and her colleagues are incredibly frustrated by the things they see every day in the schools where they work, but fear that speaking out will cost them funding or even worse, their jobs. I don't think that our viewers probably have an idea of how many pregnant kids there are in some of our public schools. I think I've heard you say that in some of the metropolitan areas, in some of the high schools, the numbers are very large. Can you give us a range?
Very high. In some of the local schools in the area could be as high as 50, 60 girls.
50 or 60 girls in a single school. How many high schools are you aware of in the state that have large numbers of pregnant teenagers in there?
Just off the top of my head, I could probably 6 that I've worked with or know.
And that's just the 6 that she knows and works with. There are plenty more in other parts of the state that are struggling with the same problems. Why? Because so many of Mississippi's teenagers are having sex. Are most of the kids you're seeing thinking about having sex or already having sex? Both?
It's both. I would say the majority, as you know, some of the research done in the state, we have 75% of our high school students have had sex. And I mean, the numbers, I'd be surprised if it weren't more than that, to be honest with you.
And so are the majority of the ones that are having sex having unprotected sex?
Talking to them, yes, and it's because a lot of times they have no knowledge of what to do, and it's very frustrating. I'm at a benefit when I'm working in a regular clinic and I have the teens come in because I have no barriers as to what I can discuss with them and talk to them about their options and stuff. So I feel like I get a lot more, my point across a lot better in those settings versus when I'm in a school setting where I have to be real conscientious about what we talk about. But yes, things are, I would say our numbers are higher than that 75%. So
what does a school nurse do? Are there ways to get around the rules, or do they break the rules? Are there workarounds that health professionals use to get this information, or you just don't give it?
Well, we can in the school system. A lot of times we have good relationships with outside the school system for referral. The problem there is you've got to worry about, is the parent able to pick the child up and take them to those appointments? And in some areas of the state, it's so rural, it's hard. Transportation and other options are, there are no other options to get to those other healthcare providers.
This is a problem that continues to frustrate, because even if a parent comes with a child to ask for help, she can't provide it. Sometimes parents come in with their children wanting information about birth control and planning and so forth, and you can't give it to even when the parents are there?
Right. And in the school setting, that is correct. Even with the parents coming in or calling and saying, please, you know, I know my daughter's having sex or my son's having sex, please talk to them about this. And, you know, hands are tied. We have to talk about abstinence and abstinence only.
This nurse's frustration with the abstinence message was something we heard repeatedly.
Well, at this point, if they come in and ask about, if say it's a school setting, if they come in asking about they want birth control or, you know, birth control or, you know, how to prevent from STDs, we can't say, put a condom, you know, you need to teach your boyfriend how to put a condom on, or we can't prescribe you birth control pills or shots or anything like that because of Mississippi law. We can't even talk about our options. We have to talk about that abstinence is the only way to go, that no sex is it. Abstinence is great. I think it's the way to go, but it's not working. The kids are having sex, and I think would be better off for them to have the options on how to prevent it, and you know, and what happens, the consequences.
Things may improve in the fall for some school nurses when new Mississippi legislation will lead to some schools teaching abstinence plus sex ed in the schools. Do you think that the abstinence plus curriculum that's been approved is going to be adequate to prevent pregnancy even with that?
I think it'll be a huge step in the right direction. Nothing's going to be 100% foolproof, but I think for sure it's a step in the right. It's a big step for Mississippi. I can put it that way.
A lot of information in this program tonight. Some of it good, some of it very bad, and some of it very enlightening. What can we take away? Well, we as a state need to do a better job of educating our teenagers, both boys and girls, about sex and the consequences of sex, whether those be consequences like unwanted pregnancy or sexually transmitted diseases. If we don't, more and more of them will be spending time in places like this. And if the images of these tiny, sick babies don't tug at your heartstrings, then maybe the cost to keep them alive will, because it's costing you, the Mississippi taxpayer, to keep their heart beating and their lungs breathing. So whatever it is that moves you, your heart or your wallet, hopefully it makes you take notice. If you want more on the information we've shared with you tonight, like the statistics surrounding teen pregnancy, or the Department of Medicaid, or the Department of Health, just visit our website, www.southernremedy.org. All that information will be there, along with plenty of other helpful information. We'll be back here tomorrow night with more on teen pregnancy in Mississippi, and I promise you, tomorrow night's show will be an eye-opener. We're keeping it simple. Me, 3 girls, and 3 babies. One conversation. You won't want to miss it. I'm Dr. Rick DeShazo. Thanks for watching.
Hush-a-bye, don't you cry, go to sleep, little baby. When you wake, you shall have all the pretty little horses.
Support for Southern Remedy and Premature Parenthood comes from the University of Mississippi Medical Center. More information at www.umc.edu.
Support for the Premature Parenthood comes from the Healthy Teens for a Better Mississippi initiative. The Mississippi Department of Human Services and the Mississippi State Department of Health are working with community leaders in an effort to lower teen pregnancy rates and advance healthy choices among Mississippi teens. For more information, go to www.mdhs.state.ms.us or call 1-800-590-0818.